Hello, folks. Welcome to the Smoking Tire Podcast. This episode is brought to you by Policy Genius, who wants you to know that while you're layering on the SPF in this summer's heat, don't forget to protect your property, too. Policy Genius can help you find ways to bundle your home and auto insurance and save on coverage. Policy Genius makes it easy to compare home and auto insurance all in one place. They can help you find home and auto coverage similar to what you have now, but at a lower price. They've saved customers an average of $1,250 per year over what they were paying for home and auto insurance before. The team will handle all the paperwork to set up your new policy or switch you over from your current one. All you have to do is head over to policygenius.com and answer a few quick questions about yourself and your property. Then Policy Genius just takes it from there. They compare rates from America's top insurers, from Progressive to Allstate, to find your lowest quotes. The Policy Genius team can look for ways to save you more, including bundling your home and auto policies. And if they find a better rate than what you're paying now, they will switch you over for free. Their top-notch service has earned Policy Genius thousands of five-star reviews across Trustpilot and Google. So head over to policygenius.com and get started right now, because when it comes to insurance, it's nice to get it right. We're also brought to you by Decked. Do you know what Decked is? Well, you're about to. And if you own a truck, you're going to know what it's like to have stuff rattling around in the cab or under the seat, and how annoying it can be to keep it organized. I hate things rattling around in my car. I hate things in my bins. I go over bumps, I hear them, and it just drives me insane. And when we were carrying camera cases around in my Ford Raptor, I mean, all those cases and all that equipment unsecured in the bed, exposed to the elements, exposed to potential theft. That's why I really think that if you carry stuff in your truck, you should think about the Decked drawer system. Decked makes organizing so much easier, accessing everything, protecting everything, and securing everything just super easy. Basically, they put this insert into your bed, and they have two full bed-length drawers that can carry up to 200 pounds each of whatever you've got. They roll out waist-high, giving you easy access to your organized tools, your gear. If you're using a truck as a camera vehicle like we were, or a construction vehicle, electrical vehicle, a pool equipment, whatever, it's got a 2,000-pound payload capacity load floor, and the drawers slide in underneath that load floor. Plus, they're weatherproof, protecting your stuff from the elements and theft. The Decked drawer system keeps your gear secure. It's out of sight and it's out of mind. If your tailgate is locked, you can't open the drawers and you can't remove the system. Drawer locks are available for added security and peace of mind if you need to go even further. Decked offers a full line of segmented storage or organizational accessories like toolboxes, bags, cargo tie-downs, and other items for maximum efficiency of space and your time. The Decked drawer system is 100% made in the USA and backed by a 3-year no-hassle warranty with second-to-none customer service team ready to answer all of your questions. Get the Decked drawer system at decked.com/smokingtire and get free shipping. That's decked.com/smokingtire for free shipping on your Decked drawer system. That's decked, decked.com/smokingtire. And of course, JB Weld, they're here all year. I think it's all year. JB Weld is the world's strongest bond. If you've worked on cars, if you've worked around your house, if you've worked on porcelain or wood, plastics, plumbing, you know what JB Weld is already. And if you don't, I'm going to tell you. Whether it's DIY projects, automotive repairs, plumbing, marine, or more, JB Weld is the world's strongest bond. In fact, JB Weld products can be used on practically anything, from metal or to wood to plastics, glass, ceramics, and more. Just keep a tube in the toolbox, keep a tool in the kitchen drawer, keep one in the car or the truck. And speaking of trucks, JB Weld acquired Herculiner, which is the original DIY truck bed liner. So if you're looking for the world's strongest truck bed liner, look no further. Herculiner has you covered there as well. I know that stuff is rough and tough because I rolled a bunch of it on my floor here at the shop. I made a rug out of it. And I don't have a truck at the moment, but I do have a floor, and I did need a rug, and I made one, and it was great. Herculiner rules. So go be your strongest self. Use JB Weld, the world's strongest bond. Use Herculiner, the original DIY truck bed liner. It is available at jbweld.com, Walmart, Amazon, Home Depot, Lowe's, AutoZone, Advanced Auto Parts, Napa, O'Reilly, Michaels, and more. JB Weld epoxy products are proudly made in the USA. Yeah, JB Weld, we love them. And of course, Tradecraft Farms is and is always in the house with the most delightful and scrumptious THC and CBD products available legally in the state of California. If you happen to be coming through town, cruise by one of their retail locations, which you can get on their website. If you are not yet part of the legalized, civilized world, just give them a follow on Instagram, Tradecraft_Farms. They are good folks. We really appreciate them sponsoring our show, and their products are just delightful. Use them daily. And all right, folks, on this episode of the show, me and Zach are in studio recapping all the stuff we have driven. He went to Italy to drive some Ferraris and tour the factory. I am extremely jealous of that. I have driven the new C8 Corvette Convertible Z51. We've had a Lamborghini Urus over the weekend. I recap what we didn't cover in our last show about the Maybach 600 SUV, and we have probably a lot more car news than that I won't even remember to read in this intro. It's me and Zach in studio in the Smoking Tire podcast. Combination of factors involved here.
Yes.
I have to open the shop very early on some days. And, if you start work at 6 a.m., it's now almost 1 p.m., that's sort of your mid-afternoon lull, isn't it? You need a little horsepower jump.
Yeah. Isn't that
little
when
high-octane Bueno roasters.
Albert Einstein, wouldn't he take a nap like 3 times a day?
Or how about any Italian?
So many times we tried to have lunch at like 3, went, oh, that's right.
Oh,
they
siesta culture.
Oh,
they
closed.
Yeah.
Shit.
It was funny, when we went to Italy, and I love Italy, and Zach just got back from Italy, and hi, everybody. How you doing? And when... I went to Italy with my parents, and we experienced the phenomenon of everything being closed for 90 minutes or 2 hours in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
And when we went, the economy of Italy was pretty minimal. It was not doing very well. And my dad just looked around and went, you want to work, 6/8 of a day.
Yeah.
Here's what you're going to get. And I don't necessarily agree with with that entirely, but I do understand. I do kind of understand.
Yeah. There were places that would show their hours was like 11 to 2.
Right.
And then 8 to 11:30. Like they have late dinners.
Right.
And they start late and run late.
Well, because the dinner, it's one seating. Like at a restaurant in America, you've probably got, you've got your lunch. Probably got 2 table turns at lunch, right? And I've never worked in restaurants. Zach has.
Yep.
2 table turns at lunch and maybe even 3 at dinner, right?
Yep.
2 or 3 at dinner, right?
Absolutely.
Italy has 1 and 1.
Yeah. Fill the table once. Everybody stays for 3 hours.
Yeah.
2 hours. And that's it.
It's Italy has and a lot of places in Europe, they don't have our. They don't really have fast food. Their fast food is a little different. Like there's McDonald's and shit, but like over there, it's like there's a rest stop that has like a pre-made panini kind of thing and an espresso, or there's a 2-hour lunch. Mm-hmm. There's nothing really in between those two things.
Yeah, I didn't. Well, I was in the small towns. I wasn't in a big city, but I don't think they have 8 fast food
It's just
joints.
cultural.
Yeah.
Like there's a McDonald's in the major cities and stuff, but like the highway rest areas are like an espresso machine and like a nice fucking prosciutto panini or something.
Even in the airport, the restaurants, all the cafe things in the airport.
We dove right into this. Why the fuck did you go to Italy? What were we talking about? Why are we even talking about Italy right now?
I went to Italy. Ferrari invited me to go to Italy to drive the F8 and SF90 at the Fiorano track and to see the museums that they have. They have an Enzo museum, and then they have the Ferrari museum.
Is the Enzo museum in Enzo's house?
It's it's like attached to it.
Yeah.
It's in Modena, and it's like attached to the. You don't get to see the house. So he had the house in Modena where he was born and where he grew up, like wrenching on cars with his dad. And then at the Ferrari factory, there's like what became his house, which was very cool. It's the original building's still there, and he used to live on the like second floor, and his office was the first floor, and it's like right when you drive in the gate. So he could see the track and see what was going on, see who's coming in.
I have a friend who I see at Cars and Coffee, and who is very, very wealthy. It's one of those people who buys all the hypercars, and he told me that he stayed in that bedroom in Enzo's house.
Really?
Yeah. Or he stayed.
Wow. Or he must have a lot of money then.
Yeah, it was crazy.
Because what they said is that whoever's the sitting president of the company can still use it as their residence when they go to Fiorano to work.
Right.
So there's still part of it that is set up like as an office and a residence, and whoever's the CEO can go there, which is super cool.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? I'm sorry. I conflated it. It wasn't a billionaire. It was someone who had won races for Ferrari, was allowed to stay there for a night or two as a perk.
That's super
for
cool.
winning. I forget one of the major endurance races.
Okay.
With Ferrari.
Because it is really amazing that there's this building made of old brick whatever with a red door, a worn doorknob, and then you turn to your right and you see the F1 building, like the modern headquarters for F1, which is huge. And it's just an interesting juxtaposition of like everything Ferrari's done and where they were and where they're going and all that stuff. I mean, it's all right in one, I don't know, what would it be like 5 New York square blocks, maybe less actually, including like track, main factory, F1 center, and then across the street is the Maranello Ferrari Museum. And all around it are all these places you can rent Ferraris to like drive around for an hour.
Yeah.
Charge exorbitant amounts of money.
Yeah, it's like €200 an hour or
for
something.
like 9 kilometers. Some of them, the limit is crazy. Yeah. So they had.
That's gotta be
me
I bet that's an unbelievable racket.
incredible. They're like, oh, look, you're here. You're already in the mood. You want to rent? I'm like, yeah, sure. For how much? I'm like, well, you can't really go anywhere. You can drive to the end of the driveway and come back. Yeah. So they had us. They had me and a bunch of journalists and other people out there to just like, people that are new to the brand or whatever, and see where it's all come from and where it's going and all that stuff. So we saw the factory and where they build the engines and where they build, put the powertrains into the cars, which is cool. Everything's like a magic conveyor belt.
On the Morgan McLaren factory scale, where does Ferrari fall?
Definitely more on the McLaren side. It's very clean, very modern. But it's not all white inside like McLaren is. Like McLaren looks like a laboratory where they're developing a new bioweapon or something. And this looks like a little bit more like the fancy Corvette factory. Like you have the powertrain come in on one crane, and then the body is like dropped on top of it, and they marry them together. It's all really slick the way it like snakes around itself. And then, in
terms of being like a compact space?
Like it's a rectangle, and the car will go like around the outside of the rectangle, makes a tight U-turn, goes on the inside, and then when it completes that, it's a car. And they just kind of, the whole thing is a giant conveyor belt that moves along.
Meaning like it's a factory?
I don't know. I've never seen one like that. Where like Corvette, it was all like suspended in the air, and the cars like floated by people.
Right.
With this, everyone is standing on the conveyor belt, and the car and the tools needed for that car move with it.
Yes.
I don't know. I thought that was really cool.
That's where I've seen other factories that are like that, where the tool cart moves along the station.
Yeah.
BMW was like that. Porsche in Leipzig was like that. There's multiple stations of tools, and the cars were hanging for some of it, but in other ones they were at sort of ground level on a flat conveyor belt, and it would the tool station would just kind of move along and then quickly reset back and then move along again. Yeah, it was pretty rad.
There's a timer counting down.
Yeah,
and then it's like 30 minutes at each station or whatever. And then they have their whole engine facility where that's the one I think people heard about. It's climate controlled. So it has a huge garden in the middle with like trees, like 30 foot tall, biosphere that keeps the humidity at 75%, and then it has the temperatures always set to the same thing year round, and that way all the metal, like
all the
it's
tolerances
like
of the engines,
those stay the same.
Yeah,
the people stay comfortable because they actually have a foundry on site, which we were not allowed to see. Like they pour their own aluminum and then just bring it over and mill it and turn it into an engine.
That's pretty cool. I wonder how common or rare that is.
They said it was very rare.
Did they?
I didn't fact check that, but they were like, not many car companies have a foundry on their site. They just order their aluminum from somebody else. I think Hyundai also had it, which is rare.
Well, to be perfectly honest, most car companies don't build the engines and the cars are not always built in the same places.
True.
I think in 2021, I think it's probably fairly uncommon to be in a situation where the engine is built in the same location as almost every single car plant I've been in, except for maybe McLaren. It was, the engine, comes in on these pallets from wherever the fuck else it's built,
right.
whether it's up the road or up the another country.
With Corvette, they had the engine room, but it was only for the Z06s, right?
Correct. The regular engines were not built on that in Bowling Green. They were built, somewhere else. And the LT4s, Z06, and the Cadillac CTS-V engine was built by a very small team on site. Yeah. So wait, I'm sorry. We were talking about the climate control of the factory. I remember when they planted the trees. Right. That was a big deal.
Yeah.
2008 or something like that. They did the tree planting thing.
Yeah. They redesigned or rebuilt their entire factory, and they're like, well, what's the best way to do this, or what's something we can optimize for it? So it's like a huge greenhouse. Like, that whole
Subaru
engine
does
room
that too.
Oh, really?
I think Subaru made a thing out of planting a bunch of trees in their factory too. Yeah.
I mean, if you can maintain, I don't know, put out more oxygen, maintain humidity, all that stuff, without having to use machines to do the whole thing. I'm sure
was it very pleasant in there?
Yeah, it did. Like, the air felt nice, and it was cool to just look out over the sea of like CNC machines and robots and all kinds of complicated stuff, and then there's just this big garden in the middle of it. I think it would be, like, on a psychological level, a much more pleasant thing to do, because they have studied that when they send people out in the forest, their brains like calm down.
Yeah,
and it's something to do with like how we're wired to see green and vegetation.
Well, that makes
and stuff,
sense.
So.
I mean,
right.
Forest relaxation. I mean, come on, it's all in the same realm of stuff.
Yeah, man, it was cool.
Do you think there's employees that are like, listen, I'm gonna fucking do some mushrooms later and break into the garden?
Yeah, this is the third shift. The shift that runs from 1 a.m. to 8 a.m.
Yeah, listen, you don't want to get one that was during that period, during the gardening phase. The gardening phase was a transitionary period.
Or much faster. Who knows? They might have understood the molecules, man.
Right. Yeah, that was when they came up with the idea for the foundry.
Yeah,
we need our own metal, bro. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
their own metallurgist, who a week before was just like an assembly guy. He's like, I understand everything now.
Right. But so it's worth it as a tourist to see the factory if you're already in Italy?
If you're in Italy, you should go. You should go to Modena, and because there's so many car companies right there anyway. Like, you could do 2 days and see Lamborghini, Ferrari, Ducati, Pagani. Like, do that.
Yeah.
But I think, for me, it's always cool to see where the things come from, because, I don't know, in a silly way, I just looked at them like, here are magical machines that come from a magical place. And then you go there and it's like, no, they're grinding metal. There are people that build this shit, because people get things done.
Yeah.
And it was really cool to see how this stuff goes from raw material to one of the fastest, most exciting cars around.
It's so funny that you said magical cars from a magical place. I remember thinking shit like that. I
Right?
remember being young and being like, no, like a Ferrari and a Chevy are almost not even almost cars. You know what I mean? It's like no, you don't. It's like they're, this Malibu and that Testarossa, they're not even cars. It's
They
like
can't
they're
be
not
made the same way.
Right? No. The Ferrari,
Yeah.
it's so pretty. It's so fast. It sounds. It must be. It has to be something totally special. It's not just like, oh no, like here's a company that has a completely different set of priorities listed out on their priority plot sheet.
Right.
And so, like, when I was working at Gotham Dream Cars in the mid-2000s, and, like, something would break, right? And it was a rental car. So things would break a lot. And you'd call the dealer, and the dealer would go, okay, well, that blah, blah, blah is going to be $2,500. And then someone in the shop would go, no, it's not. And they would take it apart, like, in the shop, and they'd eventually get to the point where you got to something made by Bosch or Magneti Marelli. And we learned that, like, actually, it's just a car made up of parts that are made by companies who also make parts for other stuff. And like,
would
yes,
say-
the sheet metal is pretty,
Right.
and the engineering of the internals of the engine and stuff like that is very good. But like, there's a whole lot of like regular shit in these amazing cars too.
Yeah, the motor that moves the seat
Yeah.
isn't going to be most of the time built by Ferrari or Koenigsegg
No.
or whatever, because
Yeah.
they don't need to reinvent that.
Yeah.
What they need to reinvent for them
Christian
is
might
engine,
try.
suspension. He might. He'll figure out a way to do
Christian would like, because like the seat motors are actually a parasitic drain we discovered.
Yeah.
You know?
it. Yeah, he'd figure out a way to make it run on oxygen. You know, because he'll be the first one to be able to.
It
he'll be able to-
diverts the exhaust onto like a windmill under the seat that like
that
air
makes
pressure
electricity.
like moves.
Yeah,
it.
if they want to reverse engineer the alien spacecraft that have crashed, have him do it.
Right,
He could do
exactly.
Yeah, it was really cool. It was really cool to see that stuff.
Yeah.
To see how it gets built. And then we got to drive.
But then you got to have a go at Fiorano, the
Yeah.
in-house test track, which
Yes.
is like pretty cool.
It's very
It's
convenient
pretty
for
cool,
them.
right? It's pretty convenient. But did Fiorano have the je ne sais quoi of any of it, or was it just a track like any other?
I think to me, strangely, it was a track like any other, but I guess once I got there, I was surprised at how narrow the track is, especially when they say they test F1 cars there.
Right, like definitely a test track and not a race track.
Correct.
Yeah,
and so they did some cool stuff. So we rode right seat while instructor, because they do a lot of like Ferrari experience instruction days there. You know, if you want to
Right.
pay for one, or if you buy a car, you can do a 1 or 2 day driving school, which a lot of people should, because all of
Which
their
you
cars are
fucking
insane.
should. I mean, not only would that be a trip, you know, they go to Italy, eat
yeah.
some delicious food, do the museum, maybe even see your car going down the line. I think they could probably arrange that. If
Dude,
not,
if you
I'm
did
just
European delivery
throwing it out of my
and
ass.
start there.
Yeah.
I mean, and they have school cars. You drive their cars, and then you could learn how to drive all the stuff, and because you're picking up at least 612 horsepower, depending
Yeah.
on what you get, and then drive it to a shipyard and ship it out. It'd be sick.
Our chaperone guy for our SF90 drive in California works at that school.
Yeah, a lot of people that work there are, legit hot shoes with a lot of experience.
Yeah.
So they had us.
What's the track?
right
Like
seat.
2 miles, right?
Yeah.
1.8 or so, is it over 2?
kilometers, maybe. I think.
It's short.
kind-
It's like Lime Rock short, right?
Yeah, it is. It's kind of shaped like a paper clip in a way. It's very long, and it folds back on itself, and it's like hairpin, chicane, sweeping left, tight right. There's a bridge with a jump before it. There is like an imperfection, or maybe they built it into that. Like right before this bridge, you're going full throttle out of this kind of
Over
slow
the bridge or
right-hander.
under a bridge?
Over a bridge.
Uh-huh.
And right before you go over the bridge, there is like a yump. And they said, back in the day, it was like, all right, we can test some suspension compliance here. But now the cars are so fast that they did telemetry with me later. And in the SF, it's like, see, that's where you had wheel spin.
Yeah.
Because the car gets
at
light.
135. Yeah.
I mean, that was like 100 or 110, but
Yeah.
it's light, and then you brake, and then blind right down the bridge, another sweeping left to a hairpin, and then like a long curving winding straight, and then you're back to start again. So it's like this very long stretched out thing, and it's like 2 lanes wide. I mean,
It's like mini Monza, right?
I've never been to Monza. What does it look like?
Like that.
Okay. Yeah, but it's so cool that they do have it right outside their door, and it's a big advantage. And so they had us ride right seat with an instructor, and then we drove the F8 by ourselves for like 4 laps, and then you come in and they do telemetry with you. And so I sat
That's
with
fun.
Marc Genet, who was like a Formula One racer and won Le Mans along with
Monza.
it's like this with another like fold in it.
Yeah. If you folded half of that over itself, you'd end up in the same place. Yeah.
Let me just find.
So 4 laps with telemetry, no right seat though.
First session was right seat.
Yeah.
But second session was by ourselves.
Oh yeah.
And, we just go out there
it
and
is
do
kind
it.
of like that actually. Yeah. That's a cool track layout.
Yeah. So this is between 9. What is this? 8 and 9. That's the bridge.
Oh, so you're going over that bridge into a fucking braking zone.
Yeah,
Oh, wow,
into a
nasty.
blind right. It's a
And you're
like a
still
crest.
on power at the bridge?
You're on
Just
power
before
on the
braking
bridge.
zone?
Right
Oof.
before the bridge, they have a sign that says brake, and I did.
Yeah.
Like this is the turn to not be bold.
Yeah.
Because there's a wall, And then, it's a lot of open grass around. This four
Looks fun.
corner 4 is like, the SF is a really fast left, and then you're going full throttle through 3. And then back here on this straightaway, right about this one marker, they had a sign that was like off gas, and they said it was for noise, but I really think it was for safety, because if you went full throttle in an SF all the way from this 2 down to this one, like you'd be going legit 175 miles an hour.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I didn't know any of the other people in this group other than Chris Perkins from Road and Track, but that's really fast to go for an entry into a corner. Like if you get that wrong by half a second, like you're going off into the factory. Like you're reparking the car where it came from. So I was fine with that whole lift here for safety.
So what? How'd you do a lift in the middle of the straightaway and then get back on it like a little bit later?
It was a lift for like 2 seconds. It's like lift, back on gas.
Right.
But it was long enough where it kind of slowed things down a bit.
Yeah. It would be easy to make that excuse for noise there, and it would make a big enough difference in the...
Totally. Yeah. I didn't...
So on a racetrack, how much faster is the SF really when you have the actual room to go really fast?
I think what I noticed is how smart it is. So they had it in race mode, and they had full harnesses, which is awesome because you don't have to hold yourself in place.
Right.
And it really helps you just focus on driving this lunatic go-kart.
And you can feel the steering without hanging onto the wheel.
Which is a big thing. Every time I drive a car with harnesses, I forget how advantageous that is for holding you in place. So you can just drive and feel. You just really notice the front end pulling you around and then they show telemetry later, like here's when traction control's kicking on, here's how much the front motors are pulling you or when they're not pulling you. And it's really cool to see as you turn in more steering wheel, how much power it sends to the front, or is it regenerating, or what's it doing, and using the motor to regenerate as you're accelerating. Like there's all this clever shit happening. And the graphs of the F8, they were like 4 things. It's like, here's your steering, your throttle, your brakes, and traction. And then with the 90, there was like 8. Because it's like, here's regen, here's front motors, here's how much it's charging off of the engine, like total energy usage, all this cool stuff. But it's really impressive I was really impressed by, I think, how fast I was able to go in the SF and how comfortable I felt just kind of pushing it, chasing Marc Genet, because it just felt, there's all this wizardry happening, much like the NSX, that you don't feel.
Yeah.
You're just like, okay, I'm braking, I'm turning, I'm going really fucking fast.
Yeah.
Be smart about what you're doing. It allows a little slip in race mode, but you don't notice that it's reining you in. You're just not crashing and flying off into France.
Right. But for double the price, is it twice as fun? You're talking about $350 versus $700,000, $800,000.
I mean, yeah, no, I don't think it's twice as fun. But I think the people that are buying those cars, I think most of them don't care how fun it is on a track.
Yeah.
I mean, we know that people that are buying nearly 7-figure hyper supercars, most of them are never going to go to a racetrack with it. They just want to show up with it.
Yeah. Well, that's the problem with the SF90. It's not a great car to show up with, because it really looks, it looks a lot like the F8. If you don't park them next to each other, or you don't have the contrasting black roof, like I've been in a couple Cars and Coffees, and there's been some SF90s that are just painted like gray, or worse, red tan. I saw a red tan SF90, and I spent about, legitimately 20, 25 seconds going SF90 or F8.
Oh, wow.
Which is, like, don't get me wrong, that car was unbelievable to drive.
Yeah,
but like,
it is.
that's not a great place to be when one car costs twice as much as the others, and like a, I guess, sort of expert is like, which one is it?
I think if you look at, I noticed a few things about the aesthetics. Like the one we drove was white, which is a terrible color for that car.
Not a good color.
So the
gray was the best one I saw. The dark gray was
too.
Blue.
Ferrari has
nice.
great blues.
Yeah,
like,
they do.
Amazing blues. From the side, the blue one, the rear fender actually has a little bit of 4GT in it. Like that, that rear window is so flat and low.
Yeah.
And then the fender bulges up. To me, that section doesn't look like F8. And then if you look dead on, the fronts are very different.
They are, but if you don't, depending on the color, and if you haven't seen an F8 recently, it's hard to tell which one you're looking at. You know what I mean? I think so anyway.
Yeah, no. I mean, I can't
Zack
tell you that
said.
your opinion is wrong. I'm
No,
just photos.
it's I just think it's generally a very similar vibe.
So let's see. So that's red F8.
Yeah.
And let me go like this. And then
red SF90.
Yeah.
I mean, it is a different front end, but it's not that different.
Well, yeah, it's those fender intakes are really similar in shape.
The headlights are definitely different. But again, if you haven't seen the F8 recently and you don't have like a frame of reference, it can take a second. And they do look different. If you want to go back and forth between pictures, yes, they look different. But
I think your point is the cars of this caliber used to be like La Ferrari, Enzo. They looked so different from the other ones.
Yeah.
And now, if it's close at all, it's too close. Is kind of what you're saying.
I'm guessing. Yeah. I mean, especially because in just my opinion, because I've only driven this thing on the street, not the track. Like the extra performance, it's a beautiful demonstration of technology, but you're starting, even if you take off that technology and just go back to the F8, it's already too fast for the street.
It's so fast.
It's already just
fast.
crazy fast. So like, obviously, the technology has to be in service of speed or no one's going to care. No one's just going to give a shit if you're like, hey, the new Ferrari, it still has 700 horsepower, just like before. It weighs 400 pounds more, but it gets 35 miles a gallon. People will be like, boo.
Yeah, like who cares?
So it has to be 1,000 horsepower, and I understand. It's just like, to me, doesn't make it any more desirable. So I was curious if... Okay, well, maybe it wasn't more desirable because I drove the thing in Malibu and you drove it on a racetrack. So maybe it becomes more desirable on the racetrack.
I think what I noticed is the F8 feels light. Like both the Ferraris had very light steering. So did the Portofino I drove the next day. Like that's what they have, right? Light steering. The F8 felt light and it felt like a little softer in the corners. It's like a little bit of that nimbleness. It felt like it was leaning more in the corner. The SF felt fucking Oklahoma flat, like around the entire track, and it had the Fiorano track package. It didn't have. I hear a car alarm.
I hear a car alarm.
So maybe it was the way the springs were set up, they're titanium springs, or it's just the all-wheel drive system. But it just seemed like it was on solid springs and just going around the track much flatter. So it was a different driving experience than that kind of a little bit of lean, light front end. It doesn't have that feeling really. Yeah. For me, like I'd rather have the lighter car that's still ballistically fast. Yeah. But we know that a lot of the market just wants the thing that makes more power and they can park it.
I mean, I think that's true, except that the Halo Porsche is the one where the powertrain is frozen in time in 2011.
Very true.
Right. Porsche makes a big, big power turbo car. They've got this cool hybrid shit they're doing. The Taycan's really nutty fast, but like the one everyone wants is the one where the powertrain is stuck in as close to 10 years ago as possible.
Right. Yeah.
So I think it's cool. Like my favorite thing about SF90 is that a relatively small company like Ferrari, their hybrid integration was like really, really good.
Really amazing.
Really good. Like they make it, if you put that shit in sport mode, I hate it when you put it in Prius mode. I fucking hated that car in Prius mode. I kind of liked it in pure EV. I thought that was actually sort of interesting. Front wheel drive EV Ferrari, that's kind of weird. And that was sort of interesting for a few minutes. But if you put it in sport or race and the engine stays on, they managed to make the electronic shit really disappear pretty effectively. And that's really good. But like, to me, the trade-off in performance and the cost and all that extra stuff, it's like the difference between, to just do an example of watches, you know what I mean? A watch that can survive 100 meters of depth, you know what I mean? Like 300 feet, give or take, 330 feet, whatever, right? That is for all but, fucking pro-level Navy divers or commercial divers that are strapping on like mixtures of shit. You know what I mean? And there's like, couple hundred of them globally.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like,
no one needs
everybody,
to go that far.
the difference, between that watch and a watch that could go 600 meters or 800, whatever these record depths, Rolex super deep sea James Cameron shit. You know what I mean? Like, oh, we tested this one by strapping it on the outside of a submarine. Like, oh, wow, thank God my watch will survive that, And,
I was just thinking of doing that for my vacation.
Yeah.
I want to get strapped to the outside of a submarine.
yeah.
Very good
And I'm
point.
not going to pretend like we don't have runway races and we don't have select events where you can use 1,000 horsepower. Sure, like, you want to buy a fucking 1,000 horsepower car and go runway racing, like, I am 100% for that. Like, have fun. I like that Porsche offers both branches of the tree. And Ferrari kind of does too. The 812 naturally aspirated. That's the branch they chose to keep. Is that V12? Lamborghini as well. Whatever we got to do.
Yes.
Whatever we got to do to hang
Absolutely.
on to that fucking V12. We're not letting it go.
Well, it's like Aston selling the Signet for a while. Like, if you need because I think I would be really curious to talk to someone at like Ferrari or Porsche about how like the carbon credits, the noise, how that stuff all works, because we know that they have to make a certain amount of noise and a certain amount of quiet, and their MPGs have to be evened out. Mm-hmm. So does that play a factor? Like, because Porsche sells hybrid Cayennes and other things, do they then get to make the GT3? I don't know. I'm literally asking the question.
It's CAFA. Or CAFE, CAFE, excuse me, Freudian slip there, is corporate average fuel economy. So it's an average. So you can choose to some degree as a company how you want to get to that average. You can make all of your cars and trucks more efficient, or you can build pure EVs to offset your gas guzzlers, or you can hybridize your naturally aspirated engines, or you can go full turbo, or you can make things plug-in, like, as long as the corporate average gets there.
So I wonder, like Taycan, Taycan EV, does that then give them the ability to make the GT3 and keep it
it
NA?
certainly helps.
Right.
It certainly helps. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the more there are these, it's carbon credits and stuff like that. So the greener the rest of your company is, not only does it allow you to build some, quote, dirty vehicles if you want, but you can sell those credits. I mean, Tesla,
of course,
all of their profit
for years
was selling those carbon credits. To other companies like Ford and GM and Chrysler, they'd buy the carbon credits so they could build Hellcat everything.
Right.
And that's another way to average it out, right?
Yeah.
But as Tesla loses market share, and I read recently that they've lost 10% market share in America because of the Mach-E in this year.
Wow.
And other companies are coming out with EVs too.
That's a lot.
It's a lot. And so as they lose market share, their carbon credits, their green credits, become less desirable because other companies will be able to make their own carbon credits or offset their own dirty, vehicles. And once Ford gets this, if the F-150 Lightning is a success, the electric F-150, they will possibly not have to buy any carbon credits anymore. If the Mach-E is totally successful and the Lightning is very successful, they might not have to buy any carbon credits anymore.
Wow.
Which they're buying a lot now.
They have, right? Because so many of their cars are Mustang GT and Fords and trucks, or trucks, not Fords.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wonder if by making the SF90 hybrid, one, it was a test bed for the 296, because it's like, that's going to be a hybridized V6 system. We heard an audio
That'll
clip
be
of it, by the way.
interesting. In theory, I'm going to go drive it. In theory.
They played an audio clip of it. It sounded quite good for a V6.
It is possible to make a V6 sound okay. Mm-hmm. It's hard, but it can be done.
Right.
And when it's done well, the Italians are usually behind it. Like the Busso engine, the Alfa Romeo engine.
Right.
We've got a Dino here at WCCS, and the Dino sounds very cool. It's possible. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard.
It's a really fine line between like a wonderful song and then just grating, piercing 350Z with straight pipes. It's really hard. It depends on the angle and the intakes,
rough
and timing.
a little bit.
Yeah.
Who did I drive? Something kind of Lotus. Lotus has managed to make the Camry engine sound really, really nice.
Yeah, very true.
And actually, come to think of it, that the fucking TRD Camry, for its faults, which were many, even that TRD exhaust on that basic Camry engine really did sound very nice. Yeah, shockingly, Toyota's V6 actually sounds pretty fucking good.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a nice one. I have spent the last 3-4 days with the C8 Corvette Convertible, which has a retractable hardtop for the first time. It's obviously, mid-engine. It's naturally aspirated, Z51 package, mag ride. This thing has fucking everything. It's over $90,000. So it's loaded. But I would have a really, really tough time explaining to you how your money could be better spent in sports cars. I mean, I really don't think you don't have to spend $92,000. This thing has like a crazy interior. You don't have to go the 3LT. You can go the 2LT and the 3LT are minimally different. It's like carbon trim and contrast stitching. You don't need that.
I think it's like a $10,000 difference. It's
a big difference, and it does add a lot of class to the car. I mean, it really does make it feel nice, but it doesn't add to the quality of it per se. And it does get the Corvette into kind of expensive territory, especially if you're also getting a convertible. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But I've never been into Corvette convertibles before, because when you had the regular car had the removable roof and it could be a proper coupe or that. The alternative of that versus a little soft top was sort of like, well, it's like a no-brainer, right?
Right.
Well, now your choice is the Targa roof or the power Targa roof. So the difference is really that with the power one, you've got the buttresses behind the driver, which looks pretty cool, and you have the power rear window, which is nice.
Love that thing.
Love the power rear window.
Up, put that down, you can hear the engine.
The side windows
GTS
and the middle, fucking good.
Yeah.
Love it. But and obviously the roof is super light now, so you could take it off manually with the coupe, no problem. And it stores in the trunk. But when it stores in the trunk, that's what you're storing in the trunk. So with the convertible, it's a power hardtop, right? It retracts in 15 seconds, I think.
16, but yeah.
16 seconds. And you still have full use of your trunk.
Which is...
The rear trunk.
Which is great.
Which is really good.
Which is, and rare. Well, I mean, yeah, it's kind of rare.
I mean, the fact that you have a front and a rear trunk, and that the rear trunk is not at all impacted by lowering the roof is really helpful. And whether you like or dislike the styling of the mid-engine Corvette is up to you. I'm not going to tell you to like it or don't like it. Some people really like it. Like, some people really lose their shit when they see it. They're really into it. I think it looks like you took a C7 and put the cab forward. Like, that's what I think it looks like. The front and the rear fascias look just like C7 to me. It's just like if you move the cab from over the back wheels to just behind the front wheels. But I happen to think it looks very good. I think it looks good with the top up. To me, the fact that I like this power hardtop a lot.
I used it yesterday. I was very impressed by its functionality. And while I do think the butt of the Corvette from the profile looks kind of odd, the benefit you get, which a lot of other cars can't match, is that you keep that, like you said, you keep the rear trunk even though the top's down. Like the McLarens don't do that. The Portofino M, which I drove out there, also or like the Miata, because those are front engine cars. It's like there's either a sign that says "Be careful with stuff in the trunk when you put the top down," or the Portofino has like a cubby
shelf thing,
it's
right?
got a shelf that's like, don't put shit on top of this if you want to put the top down.
Right.
So
with this, guess what has mid-engine cars have rear trunks? The Lamborghini Countach and the Ferrari 328 GTS. So I have been spoiled with my two old cars. And look, I like a frunk. Nothing wrong with a frunk. Frunk's okay. But with a frunk, it's typically small. You have typically a secondary latch that you've got to find and let go. Although in the Corvette, it's electronic and there's no secondary latch in the frunk, which is nice.
True. I couldn't get the key fob to work.
The key fob, for some reason,
was
doesn't do it, but I don't know why. You might have to do something funky. I don't know. But even though I think the rear end is the weakest point of the car styling-wise, the functionality of that trunk in the back cannot be appreciated enough.
Yeah,
I mean,
I can't
it
argue
holds
with
a
that.
bunch of shit. It's an appropriate load height. It has that electronic latch, so if you just fucking close it gently, it sucks it down the rest of the way. It gets a little warm back there because the exhaust goes underneath it, so I wouldn't keep ice cream in that bitch.
Right.
But
Put that in the front.
but like, dude, I mean, dailying this thing is really nice.
Yeah.
I really like the automatic, the dual clutch gearbox is so well programmed. I took Batim and after the show yesterday, took him for a go. He drove it, and he was like, "Ooh, somebody spent time on this gearbox. This is very good." And then I took him out on the 90, and I cycled him through the mag ride modes. And when we went from track to tour, he was like, "Oh, dude, are you shitting me? That was awesome!" Like,
Yeah.
it just glides it out. The ride is amazing on this car.
It is an impressively functional vehicle in terms of packaging, comfort, driving, and performance. Like,
and even
it really,
like
really
the quality of it, like it really does feel like
seats are really nice.
we've got my office is a room full of exotic cars, and so we're always getting in and moving around and futzing with different stuff. And I yesterday had to shuffle a brand new Aston Martin Vantage out of the way to do something, and there was virtually no appreciable difference in quality between this $165,000 V8 Vantage Roadster and the $90,000 Corvette. Now, you want to go spec for spec, the AMG V8, like, yeah, it makes more power. It's a little bit more exotic, outsourced, but exotic. Fine. But, like, I'm telling you, there's virtually no appreciable difference in quality if you just sit in them and touch things and press buttons and move them. Like, you know, the Corvette's there. It's like there. I know some of the panel gaps on cars are, like, not quite perfect. I think they're very good on this particular one, which, considering it's a power retractable hardtop, is great. The stereo works good. The touchscreen is good and responsive. Like, there's just so much to like.
The seats reminded me of the NSX seats, but the bottom was a little more comfortable. Like,
And
the way
there's more
teardrop
legroom than the NSX. It's more. This car's more fun to drive than the NSX. I think it is.
I haven't driven in the canyons. Around town, I think they're even.
Around town, I prefer the Corvette to the NSX. I think the NSX is particularly unexciting when driven slowly. When you drive them fast, I bet it's more comparable. Maybe Edge NSX.
Well, because this sounds good.
Yeah.
Like, this one sounds louder than the coupe we had before. Maybe because I had
This
the
has the
back window down.
Z51 dual mode exhaust comes with that.
Oh, okay.
But also maybe because you've got no window there.
Yeah.
That probably helps too.
Yeah, it sounds angry.
Yeah.
The square wheel, at first, I still don't like it the way it looks. And I was like, this doesn't make any sense functionally. But then I realized, well, one, the rack is really quick. You don't have to lift your hands very much.
Right.
And if you do the kind of rally driver turn where you're like, oh, I'm turning 90 degrees, I'll just grab the top.
You're grabbing
turn
the flat part.
Grab the flat part, you turn it 90 degrees. It is then the right amount of steering input to make that 90-degree turn.
The rack is very quick in that car, and I like that. And you actually can get quite a bit of angle too. The ratio is good too.
But if you had to go, if you had to countersteer something or do in between that, then you're grabbing like a corner, which is weird.
I'm anti-square. I think. Wait till you see the GT3 Touring video. We can't. I'm sorry, live audience, because today is the 10th and the embargo is the 13th. I can't talk about GT3 Touring today. I'll get in trouble. Our next show, we're going to talk about GT3 Touring. But one thing I can talk about, because it's all across the Porsche 911 range, and you'll see it in the GT3 Touring video, is I took a fucking dig at. I was like, you know what else I love about this car? I was like, the steering wheel is a circle.
It's a wheel.
Porsche discovered that a circle is the perfect shape for something that you spin. And they fucking stopped there. They didn't. There's a term, reinventing the wheel, to describe things that don't need reinventing.
That's a great point.
Like, some people haven't heard of this term, okay? There's a phrase that describes inventing things that didn't fucking need inventing.
Yeah. Mythbusters made square wheels once to see what it was like. It was out of concrete, and it was just the worst.
Yeah. You can have a tiller-style wheel will work if your vehicle has a 1-to-1 steering ratio, like a go-kart or a Formula One car. That's what that is for. If you have to park it in a more than 1-to-1 steering ratio, you need a fucking circle, my friend.
Yeah, you need a circle.
Circle.
Because the Vantage also has a squarish wheel, which does not look good in that car.
It's
especially
terrible.
because the exterior of that car is very round and shapely.
Yeah.
I don't know what they were doing.
Yeah, it's not good at all. But I mean, and actually, so interestingly, as you know, as useful of an engine as the LT1 V8 is. I mean, you have a very, very wide torque band, so you can pick a gear and, really, really run that gear out. And being a naturally aspirated engine with a wide power band, it's a super forgiving car. It's not just going to we're beyond the days where a naturally aspirated V8, even a 500 horsepower, is just going to step out on you. It just won't do that.
Modern tire tech plus traction control.
Yeah, it's not happening. And so you can use throttle liberally, and it's fun. But at the same time, when you've got an engine that feels, or a chassis that feels so exotic, you've got a view out the front that feels very exotic, your fucking square ass wheel, and a really fast, a ripper of a gearbox. Man, do I get bummed out when I get to 6,500 and hit the red line. I go, God, I need 8,000. It's supposed to be okay at the bottom, meaty in the middle, and then batshit at the top. Give me that, and I don't necessarily mean it needs to have 800 horsepower. That's not what I mean. I don't mean that. I mean, if it was a smaller displacement engine that was a little revier, like maybe the flat plane thing they're working on, like that's what would make it better to me. And I think
the LS7, right? That revved to 7, didn't it?
Yeah, but I'd like
Dry
more.
sump.
I'd like more. I want more revs. From a mid-engine car with paddle shifters, you need the revs. It's like this.
I think you got to choose, though. You have displacement or revs, right? I mean, because you have such big pistons that are trying to move at such a high rate of speed.
Okay, I'll make the choice. Revs.
All right, so what you want is a Ferrari for 90 grand, which is actually a great idea.
Yeah, yes, I would like that.
Okay.
I can't have that?
You have one.
It's a good point. It's a really good point. Fuck, you're right. I was right, and then you were right because of it. It's excellent.
I think the LS, LT, all those engines are so great. They're just strong in every way, torque everywhere. I like it. I mean, it would be fun to keep revving and revving and revving. Maybe they could push it in a Z06 package to like $7 grand.
I think they will.
Instead of adding, turbos or something like that.
Haven't you seen those videos of the prototypes running around that sound like Ferraris?
But I hope, if they're going to go flat plane, I just hope it works better than Ford's flat plane because the Corvettes and reliability, like it's reliable,
You'd
speed,
have to be
cheap.
pretty dumb to watch how Ford did it and then go, let's learn nothing. But it doesn't mean they couldn't be. They could be dumb. I don't think. I hope they wouldn't be. And there's. People will disagree with me and go, the Corvette's about a small block and, who cares about the revs? And this is about low center of gravity and wide torque and all. I get you. I feel you.
Well, it's interesting. It's like it has all these attributes that you associate with exotic cars, which is correct because for a while only exotic cars had those things.
Well, the Corvette always democratized what the Europeans were doing. So in the 50s when Ferrari came on the scene and started doing this stuff, and Alfa was building these beautiful touring cars, the GM guys said, let's build a less expensive version of that with this American durable, fairly straightforward engine, but we put it in a light car and boom, and make it pretty, but make it affordable. And they did that with the front engine sort of GT cars. They hung on to the front engine long after everybody else moved on. to mid-engine, and now they're democratizing to a certain degree the mid-engine cars that cost 3 or 4 times as much, and they're doing a fucking killer job of it. I'm just saying that, like, I will give this car an incredible review. You're gonna watch the video and you're gonna go, it's obvious, Matt fucking loves this car, but they won't separate me. I owned a Corvette, remember, for a long ass time. It was a great car, and if they make one that revs to 8, I might own one again. It's fucking. I mean, it's really, really nice car. It's a nice car.
I'm not a huge fan of the way it looks, but as a vehicle to drive and do just about anything in, it's exceptional.
It's really nice. I mean, it's on the same. It feels like it's really almost at where a Ferrari 458 was, just a few years ago. It doesn't have quite as many revs, but from a quality perspective and the gearbox. The suspension, the ride. I mean, don't forget, Ferrari licensed mag ride from General Motors, and not the other way around.
Right.
So GM has been doing this.
Yeah, very true.
And that car, when I first rode it, when I first drove it for back in the day, 2 years ago, I said the ride quality is second only to Rolls-Royce. That may have been a little hyperbolic, considering we had the fucking Maybach 2 weeks ago with hydraulics on it, which is a new type of magic I haven't experienced before, and that may actually take the crown. But compared to the other shit I've been driving, compared to my wife's Mach-E, compared to the GT3, compared to other, my Ferrari 328, the Corvette in fucking touring suspension mode is like serious magic carpet level shit.
Absolutely.
And if you've got that kind of body control, you can drive so fast on bumpy roads. Like, I can't wait to go up fucking Big Tahunga in this car. I'm going to fly. I've never driven a C8 on our home roads. We've only driven them far away and on racetrack.
Like Piuma. Piuma has those weird bumps in
the negative
G.
Yeah, the negative G corners. Yeah, for sure. So, but I mean, the C8 is fucking good. They're having trouble delivering them. They're not making enough of them to satisfy demand. There's long waits. Customers are getting pissed.
Well, they had a few months off, supply chain and all that stuff last year.
I get it.
Yeah, but they've sold a bunch.
But it is, what a fucking good product.
Yeah.
Really, really nice product.
When I drove it last year at, not Palmer, where was I? AMP for Rated, I was like blown away at how easy it was, how natural it felt going fast. Corners, track, all that stuff, just mid-engine. Like, it feels like they've been doing that for 20 years.
Yeah.
It did.
And, you only lose 100 pounds. I'm sorry, you only gain 100 pounds with the power roof. And so, in my opinion, you should only not get the convertible if you really care about the weight. If that makes a difference to you, cool. Your priorities, no problem. Or if you want to use the trunks while having the top down. Right? Because, it's nice that you could take the manual top off and put it in the trunk and take it with you, but you can't have a suitcase. So now when you go on your road trip with your suitcases in the trunk, now you've got to choose, right? But with the convertible, you can fill the trunk with shit and then still take the top down.
I mean, I think you go convertible unless it's a money thing or
you really care about the weight.
Which is not.
And if you really care about 100 pounds, I would suggest waiting for the track day special anyway.
Yeah, you could do slightly lighter seats and then make up that 100 pounds probably. Go fixed rails instead of electric seats. And you might save that 100 pounds.
Yeah, or wait for the Z06. They're going to make one. One thing I wouldn't do is buy a base C8 right now or a C8 Z51 and start modifying it. That's one thing I wouldn't do because we haven't seen what GM is going to sell me yet. I had a base C5. And I fucking started modifying it. I left it stock for quite some time. And then the Z06 came out. And then I started to modify after that. But if I knew I would have just
bought the Z06.
Yeah, they already did the shit.
Yeah.
So if you're going to modify, you really want to start with the best the factory will sell you, and then go from there, as opposed to starting with the cheapest one you can get, because you're starting from a hole.
Yeah.
behind what they're willing to
It's a
sell
very
you
good
with a
foundation
warranty.
to start with. I mean, it depends on what
And
you
you
want
can
to do with it.
finance the difference.
True, but if the Z06 is like 90 grand to start, just for the sake of argument, and
Yeah.
you're like, well, all I want are coilovers. I don't know why you'd even do that.
A
'cause the mag ride's so
bolt on
good.
or two,
Yeah.
whatever. Like you want to change the rims, okay, fine, change the rims. You want a different exhaust, okay. But I would say I wouldn't buy the base one in order to truly seek maximum performance.
Right.
You know what I mean? I wouldn't turn it into a track toy.
Right. You're going to go buy end links
Yeah.
and bushings and all
No,
that shit.
customize,
Yeah.
have fun. You know what I mean? But like, I would not fuck with that mag ride. No way, sir. Leave that bitch right alone.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't like Corvette's wheel offerings with the C8. I don't think that that's another weak point is I don't really like any of their wheels at the moment. But I've seen on the internets, on the Instagrams from HRE and others, some pretty cool options for C8s. Callaway is making a cool wheel.
Oh, nice. Yeah, these are. I think these are the wheels.
Those are the wheels that are on the one that we have, but
Yeah.
they're painted two-tone. They're painted gray, dark and silver, and I don't really like that very much. They're better when they're pure silver. I hated
Even
the
so,
ones
they
on
look, they look like snowflakes.
the black ones wheels that were on the one for road and track. I hated those. Those I didn't like those at all. A couple people are making some good wheel choices, but those 5 spokes
better.
there, 'cause you know why? Because they're the fucking Ferrari 458 knockoffs.
yeah.
They look just like the 458 wheels. Red tan is a very good combo though on a Vet. This one, the one that we have, white. People, I'm not gonna say that it should be a crime to make a white dashboard because I think that infringes on our freedoms, telling someone they can or can't sell a car with a white dashboard. But I am saying as a consumer, you should never buy a car with a white
Well, and
dashboard.
as a human, because if you buy one and you drive, I drove it yesterday at noon, and I was wearing sunglasses, and I couldn't believe how bright. I'm looking at your Instagram right now.
Yeah, you can see it.
Look how bright it's blowing out the camera. I mean, if you were
It's
driving
white.
into the sunrise or sunset or whatever at any time of day where the light is at an angle, it's going to be really hard on your eyes.
It
Like,
reflects
legit.
up onto the windshield, and so the whole passenger side of the windshield is blown out with white. Although,
Yeah.
shout out to GM, the heads-up display and the angle of the windshield makes it work with my Dylan Optics
It does,
polarized
that's true.
sunglasses.
Yeah.
Some heads-up displays do not work with polarized sunglasses.
just, like, tilt your
BMW,
head,
I'm looking
yeah.
at you. The GM one, no problemo. I like that.
But this is like, snow blindness is a thing. Like
Yeah. No, it's I can't. I don't understand anyone who gets a pure white interior. I just think you're asking for it at that point. But I think this might be some special edition. I think it looks like fucking Andre Agassi's LA Gears. I wrote that in Instagram, but that's what it really looks like, and it's crazy. But I would they have a dark tan interior that looks good with almost every exterior color. Like stick with that.
nice. Yeah.
Yeah.
White. Or if you like the white seats, don't get a white dash. Get a black dash.
I mean, but like, look at me, bald, chubby, bearded, wearing glasses with some type of coating on the lens, gray New Balances, and tall compression socks, driving a white-on-white Corvette convertible. I mean, sign me up for fucking something called Estates, Pleasant Estates Retirement Home or something. I'm ready to just fucking call it a day, I guess. Huh?
Yeah, I don't know how you made your money. What do you think? What do you think it would have been?
It doesn't matter how I did it, but I'm not doing it anymore. That's that's what it really says.
Ran a couple
about
of boat
me.
dealerships, maybe.
This is the official car of my fucking ex-wife.
My new wife, she doesn't do that.
Yeah. But it's a really
good car.
really nice product. So good job GM. Nice job. Shout out to our pal Nino Cutraro of the Vintage Podcast Days is having his fashion show tonight for his new fashion line, Di Florencio Fashion. That picture, that's an amazing picture. Yo, Nino straight up started a fashion line by learning to sew on sewing machines and hand making all of these garments.
Yeah.
Literally each of them handmade, and he's literally having a runway show tonight that we are going to be attending. We have procured a green Lamborghini Urus for the event, and I have a reason to wear my Magnus Walker shoes.
Yeah, you do. These painter pants are cool. I like these.
Those are cool. Those are awesome,
like
actually.
well.
I wish I wish I was thin enough to wear any. If you put any of these clothes in a chubby boy, it doesn't look right. You have to be like thin and lanky. But apparently he sold clothes like Machine Gun Kelly and Lil Nas X, and you could see people like that wearing these clothes. They're
yeah,
dope.
got a lot of like bright patterns and stuff.
They're
it's very
dope.
Cool.
I'm not dope is the problem. Nino texted me and he was like, you're going to come and it's a fashion show. You know that, right? You have to dress up like cool. And I go, can I just wear a $20,000 watch and drive a Lamborghini? That works in Venice. And he goes, that's not going to work here.
Oh my God. I don't have anything that'll be anywhere near this.
You have to,
I don't.
What you do is you have to like pick 3 items from your closet and then 1 from your girls.
That's fucking funny. That's very funny.
Which items they are? There's Nino model. That sweatshirt was dope. That top right, that hoodie is sick. Yo, he's got good at sewing. Oh, that zips open in the front, in the middle of the face. That rules.
He's gotten like.
God damn, he gotten good at making clothes?
He did this for years. He just had. When I lived with him, which was years ago, he just had sewing machines and stuff, and he was just figuring it all out.
Do you know, like really literally learned this shit by himself. Like, how do you start a company? By doing one thing every day. Like, it's like a model. Like, literally, all through pandemic and all that shit, he's got a day job. He works for Mark Wahlberg. He's an editor. But, like, he made it his goal to make one article of clothing, at least one, every single day. And he did that shit. And now he's got a bunch of it to sell, and he makes money.
Here's the stuff.
And he just bought a house.
Super clever. The magnets, the shirt with the magnets.
Oh, the magnets
that snap
was cool.
to the scarves. These are like legit super clever.
Oh yeah, there's Nino wearing one on the left. It's like a shirt that's like an Afghan with magnets, and you can become like a hoodie or a scarf if you like magnet it up different ways.
Very clever.
It's pretty fucking cool. I'm stoked you're gonna check that out.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Do you think that it's outside, so we'll be allowed to like smoke blunts and shit, right?
Yeah.
As long as I bring enough for like everybody.
Yeah.
Let's just bring an enormous bag of weed.
You won't be the only person bringing weed there.
I probably won't. Yeah. I got a shirt that matches the Magnus shoes,
I lived with him.
too.
You did too. Like,
yeah, I know. But I have a shirt that matches the Magnus shoes, so it'll be extra cool. Nice. I tried to find a Coogee outfit, which led me to the mall.
Oh,
have you been to a mall since the pandemic?
I haven't been to a mall in 10 years.
Well, there's that. But like going into an indoor mall for the first time kind of bugged me out a little bit. Because there's no mask rules, right? But some people are still doing it, which is fine. But like, I just became, I've been indoor dining and whatever, but something about a mall it's so indoors.
Well, it's like an airport. You're just passing lots of people.
It's just it's like such an indoors airspace. And I didn't have like anxiety about it per se, but I just became like very aware.
This is Coogie's site.
Coogee's hard to get right now. I've tried to look at a bunch of these. The sizing is tough. There's not a lot of big boy sizes going on right now with the Coogee, but it's okay. And certainly to get it last minute in Los Angeles was difficult because the mall doesn't have such things anymore, as it were. Are there any questions from the people?
We got a bunch of them.
Okay.
I have not vetted them. I just pasted. So, read what you
All right.
Speed round.
If Matt and Zach were to buy your own, why am I sitting so fucking low? Your own brand new sports or supercar, what would you go for and how would you spec it?
Brand new?
Brand new sports car, supercar, and how would you spec it? Well, I would have something that is not exactly off the shelf, I suppose. If I was to have a new car, I'd get a Boxster Spider from Porsche in British Racing Green over tan. And I would have the comfort seats. I might even not be a Boxster Spider. It might even be a Boxster GTS 4-liter. And I would send it to Demand, give him $30,000, and he would return to me a car that looks just like a regular Boxster on the outside and a very tasteful spec, but actually had a fucking Warhammer of an engine. And that would be delightful.
Am I allowed to buy a 430 Scud?
Nope, brand new.
Oh. Oof. I mean, 812 GTS.
Ah, there you go.
God,
what color?
Just, I think one of the blues. Ferrari has some really nice blues. Not as dark as the one we had. I wasn't a huge fan of that. It
No,
was
like the light blue, the sky
like the
blue.
one we had Roma, Roma, that on an 812.
Yeah, that would be excellent.
That'd be pretty good.
That would be very good, yep. Daniel Berman, what's the future for Bugatti's W16? I think a supplemental hybrid system at first
For sure.
before completely going away and being replaced just by Rimatz's batteries and motors.
Yep.
That I haven't read. If anyone's going to plan on asking about that, I have not read the more than a top line analysis of that merger between the Rimac, Bugatti, and Porsche. Those are the three companies. There's some funky ownership because Porsche already owned part of Rimac, and it was like I'm not really sure other than that top line analysis what the deal was. Whoo! Gabe says. Oh, we recommended a manual GTI. He likes it. Great.
Good.
Okay, wait a minute. Based on your experience with the AMG 2-liter, which is from the GLA 45, and the Lotus Evora separately, how good will the Emira?
I think it's a hard I
just ran up and down 2 flights of stairs in case you're wondering.
Because I think it's Avaya, so maybe it's a hard I and it's a Myra.
Emira? We'll have to check that.
They'll tell us.
I think it will be cool. I mean, I think it'll be like a roomier, better made Alpha 4C, which will be great. I mean, that engine is awesome. Gearbox is awesome.
Yeah, it is fun. If it's just fast.
I think it's strange that it's 2 completely separate powertrains.
Right. Well, isn't it the dual clutch only available with the 2-liter and then manual with the V6?
Correct. Which is weird.
Well, they probably have manuals and V6s on the shelf.
Maybe.
They're like, well, let's keep going while we can. Which is it's a sweet power plant. It's a really sweet power plant.
I'm sure it'll be fun. I bet it'll be really cool. Yeah. And by the way, go AMG for being like the fucking world's engine supplier. The regular 96. Will Toyota delve deeper into electric cars? They've got an e-car in Europe and a great hybrid. Will they double down on hybrids or change? I mean, they own the hybrid game right now. I mean, really.
Have for a while.
The Prius is, it's not it, but like, it's such a dominant car that I think they intend to be, like, electric technology seems like early adopter shit, but a Prius isn't. A Prius is like
early 2000s.
It's like a Corolla. Like,
right.
At this point, no early adopters are getting Priuses right now. Like, I want a Corolla, but even less fuel. Like, that's who's getting Priuses right now. So, I think Toyota always stays a step behind the technology curve in order to make their cars more reliable, with the exception of the Prius.
Oh, you're right.
The 4Runner, the Camry, the Corolla, all of these products use naturally aspirated engines, basic climate control systems, basic multimedia systems in order to be durable and reliable. Mm-hmm. And so I don't see them being a leader in EVs, even though they're a leader in hybrids.
I don't think they need to. Like, they're making enough money on the hybrids. They probably have enough CAFE, all that stuff on the hybrids. So they can just watch what the market's going to do and then react appropriately. And they do a great job if they go full EV eventually. But right now they have so many hybrids on so many different lines. Yeah. Right? Like Camry, Corolla, Prius, they just all right, they'll just do that. They've been doing it for a long time and it works.
Yeah. Pedram Dashti says, my friend and I have started a media company in Vancouver and would like to enter the automotive photography scene. Car meets are not prevalent. Any advice for building a portfolio? Find cars and take pictures of them.
Yep.
I mean, that sounds condescending, but, the getting of gigs is the job. That's the whole job. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be creative, whether that means going on Instagram and searching locally and offering to do photo shoots for owners, whether that means traveling to events, whether that means sitting on the side of the road that sports cars are likely to drive on and photographing cars that drive by and having a website where people could buy prints of their shit. You know, it's like you got to get creative. Like thinking about getting into the automotive photography scene. I'm not really sure what that means because like it's not like that sounds to me like you're saying like you see a business opportunity there that you're trying to get into and seize. And it's like, that's not really how that works. People take pictures of cars because they really like it. And if they like it so much and then also have a creativity that they can bring to it that adds innovation somehow or service, whether if it's Larry Chen, it's creativity and personality. If it's the guy who sits on the side of the snake and takes pictures of people going through, it's automation and service business. You know what I mean? Selling prints, whatever. If it's work going to a track day and getting pictures of people who are doing the track day, like, you know, getting into the space. To get into the space, just find cars anywhere and take pictures of them.
Yeah, I think if their question was, they don't have car shows here, really. So how do I find cars? Just find shops that build stuff in your area, or there's like online car clubs everywhere.
Yeah.
And just offer to shoot cars for free, like you said. And shops will always need promotional photos. Look at any of their Facebooks and Instagrams. Like they might have an in-house photographer, or they hire somebody, or do it for free for a while and do a good job, and then you could end up getting paid to shoot for shops, people, etc.
Yeah.
Yeah.
John says, similar question. What do you think about Mercedes putting the AMG engine from the GLA 45? Is this today going to be the Mercedes 2-liter day? In something else like the C-Class? I don't like when manufacturers put small, high-strung engines into bigger vehicles.
Yeah.
I don't like it when it's that Turbo 4 in the Silverado. I don't like it when it's the Mazda 3 Touring powertrain in the CX-9. I would so much. The only thing I really learned driving that Land Cruiser for a week is how we ended up in a place where the standard of luxury was a really quiet V8. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that, it's not turbos, it's not some small displacement thing, it's like, it's just this very linear, smooth torque, and so...
Easy.
Easy, right. So when you have a bigger engine that's underworked, it's not going to be efficient in traffic. It is going to be as efficient when you're actually moving, right? That's why the 6-liter Corvette C7 can get 27 miles per gallon highway.
And it's why the new Bronco with the small engine gets worse highway mileage than city mileage.
Right. And so the problem is when those types of powertrains are really good at the EPA test. And so they show better numbers on paper. They're not as nice to drive. They don't feel as luxurious. In the real world, they're not even as efficient as they claim to be. So that's sort of what sucks.
Yeah.
So I'm not a buyer for the high-strung engine in the bigger car.
Yeah.
I like that engine in the GLA. It's appropriate. But I wouldn't go sticking it in an S-Class or a C-Class and be like, oh, it makes the same power as the blah, 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 because, well, it's not. It's how it makes it.
Yeah, they should use the inline 6. You know, I know they're dropping down from the V8s in the C63. Just use the inline 6. That makes a lot of power, and then it's at least on par with the M3.
Right. Humza has a Porsche GT3 and wants to upgrade the daily M3 to something else, some type of dailyable sports car. Used sports cars. Would you buy an LC500, AMG GT, or F-Type R?
LC500.
LC500 for me as well.
Yeah, you already have a fast thing, so the AMG GT is just another fast thing.
The GT and the F-Type R are both going to be stiff like the GT3. They're front engine, rear drive, and they're relatively heavy, and that means stiff. Mm-hmm. And so the LC500 is more of a cool cruiser. It's fast enough, has a great engine, great sound, but will not beat you up.
Yeah.
Adam wants to know if the Cyan P1800 is available. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, it's that crazy $700,000 P1800, the all carbon one they made.
I mean, I'm sure they'd build you one. I don't know.
Did
they build more than one?
I think they build them I'm curious what the take rate's going to be on these, because a really clean, refurbished P1800 right now is like $30,000.
Yeah, like the best one.
The best one, even though people love them, they're not worth that much money. So
what about them two-door Delta Integrale things? Are they building any of those?
Cool.
Are they? I mean, they made one, but who knows if they're actually? I don't know if they're actually selling them. Adam. I don't know if it's not available.
Right.
I'm sure if you sent them a US spec P1800 and
there's a
800 grand, huh?
There's a person out there.
Do they need me? Okay, no.
I don't know.
Martin says, what do you think of the Hyundai N models coming out, the Kona and Elantra, as well as Hyundai as a company overall? I think Hyundai has an excellent reputation right now, despite the fact that they've had multiple enormous recalls in the last year. They've managed to not have those hurt their reputation, haven't they?
Right.
Amazing,
True.
right? Why is that? Why does no one care that they had a massive recall and
Most
had
people don't
massive
know about it.
engine problems?
If you read auto blogs every day, you know about it.
Yeah.
If you don't, you don't. So
I don't know. We don't know anything, Martin, about the Kona and Elantra N. The Veloster N was fun. It's a nice car. If you watch our reviews, we both preferred the manual, not necessarily only because it was a manual, but also because they made the spring rates stiffer in order to accommodate the dual clutch, and it sort of fucked the ride up a little bit.
a little stiff, yeah.
It was a little stiff. The manual was better. But I remember when the Elantra came out with that 2-liter turbo, and it was like way more engine than chassis.
Yeah, it was. I think it seems like they have engineers that know how to make their cars turn and stop and be fun. So if they can add that to the Elantra, great. You make a Veloster N with a trunk.
Yeah.
Cool.
Alan Johnson says he's got a Z06 allocation if we want it. 9,000 RPM, starts at 100,000. I mean, if that's correct, Alan, I don't need it right now, but I appreciate that. And if it really does rev to 9, that would be spectacular,
That would
wouldn't
be
it?
amazing.
It would be great. And if they do it for 100K, even better, right? I don't know what is. I don't know what 8J is. Is that a chassis code of some kind? Alexander wants to know thoughts on a TTRS as a weekend toy. TTRSs are fun cars. They're really nice. They're like little rally cars. I think that is a generation, right?
Yeah, that's the one we like.
Yeah, they're great. 5-cylinder can handle a lot of power. Just some basic mods. You don't have to do too much. Just your intercoolers and your exhaust and tune, that kind of stuff. Big power.
They look good. Interior looks really cool.
Yeah, they're great. And people, it's an oddball. It's like what should you buy for $60,000 if you don't want a Boxster or a Cayman
or an M2?
Or an M2. That's pretty much what I'm thinking.
This was.
A Red Moped wants me to ride a Ducati Diavel. Maybe. I've got the Monster coming in a couple weeks. I'll ask him if there's a Diavel in the fleet. Sure.
So these questions were from yesterday with.
All right. Let's see. Vierenfeld wants to know why they don't sell the Volkswagen Polo in the U.S. because people don't buy small cars here, sir.
Yeah. I saw them in Italy. They are small.
They're small.
They are small.
In Europe, or I should say in America, we have standardized parking spaces.
Yeah.
And so I hate to say it, but there's literally no point to having a car that's smaller than a certain, like a Volkswagen Golf, as an example, is literally the smallest car that one would ever need in America because it fits in every parking space. I mean, they're just,
I saw a smart car there, and I was like, it makes sense here.
Yeah, because it's wherever you want it, wherever you fit, you can park.
Right.
But that's not how America works.
Right.
So in America, there's just no reason to sell a car that small.
And they wouldn't.
Except for novelty. Yeah. Okay, hang on. Richard H. says a 4-door hatchback wagon or crossover in between a $40,000 Golf R and a $100,000 Taycan Cross Turismo. And anything in between. Anything?
What
would you grab the keys to most often? 100K Taycan Cross Turismo sounds pretty good. I'd fuck with that.
Yeah.
Sounds lovely.
Yeah, that's the
Ain't
answer.
nothing wrong with that.
I would definitely rather drive that than the Golf R.
Yeah. If I could afford a Taycan Cross Turismo without it being a problem, a Volkswagen Golf would not be in my shopping list. Zach.
I read this yesterday, and I knew you'd be so mad about it.
This is I'm not going to use your last name, Zach. But if this is a real question, this is a fucking dumb question. Cross-shopping a 2013 Raptor and a 2015 Mustang GT Premium Manual. Thoughts? Let's see. If you'd like to jump the dunes, which one do you think we'd go for?
Well, I mean, the Mustang has a locking trunk, so it's going to hold the things in the car when you go over the jump.
Right.
The things in the bed of the truck might fly out.
Right. Downsides, when you go over the jump, the entire car might pancake. Right. Okay.
I saw this yesterday.
Right. Okay. So so let's see. Right. Yeah. So that's
downsides on Raptor. If you want to park it anywhere, it's kind of a challenge.
Thoughts are, one is a fucking enormous
an
truck.
Automatic, yeah.
One is a sports car. Do you want a sports car or a truck?
Do you know, Zach? You don't.
If your thought process is, I don't care what I buy as long as I think it's cool, I can't help you. There's no objective rationale. Different. Someone asked me to explain to them how I ended up deciding on a Countach, as if I was like calling into a show like this and going, I'd like to buy an 80s supercar. What do you guys think? And like they just said, you should get the Countach.
This is more like, I'd like to buy a car from the 80s. What do you think? Should I spend $5 on a chocolate chip cookie or balloons?
Yeah. Big truck, small sports car.
There's just weird things across shop.
Kyle B is coming out of a Mercedes E63 and looking at a Mercedes GLC 63 or a 2020 Macan Turbo. The upsides of the GLC, that V8 sounds really good. That's a nice little package. Upsides of the Macan Turbo, pretty much everything else.
Handles great.
I hate to say it. The handling is probably better.
I like the way the GLC looks. I do like the style of it.
Yeah, it does, as long as it's the regular roof. I don't like the S.
Right.
Yeah. GLC is nice. I have a client here at WCCS who has GLC 63, and it's very typical. He bitches about it constantly and says he wishes he hasn't got it. I go, why? What's wrong with it? He goes, fucking 8 miles per gallon. I go, it's the 63. What did you expect? And not 3 days later, he tells me there's a flatbed coming to take it to a tuner shop. And I go, what are you doing with it? He goes, oh, we're going to, fully tune it up, intercoolers, exhaust. And I go, you were complaining about the fuel economy 2 days ago and said you wish you'd never got it. Now it's like 800 horsepower. He's like, yeah, I figured I might as well. You can't beat him, join him.
I mean, 8 miles per gallon is real bad.
He said it was real bad. This guy has a heavy foot, but
the Macan, if you live in a place with lots of curves and you want to take it to the canyons, you can. I've never driven this in the canyons. Have you?
I have.
How is it compared?
I have a review of the GLC 63S in the canyons, which is close enough that it would match this. It's nice. I mean, the Macan is a little more agile, a little more feel.
Okay.
I think if I had to spend my money, I'd probably go Macan, but the V8 versus the Macan's V6 doesn't sound all that great. It's not that interesting. And so,
very true.
So I think around town, the GLC is probably a little more interesting because it goes, rah, rah, it's real barky and shit, Jeremy says, commiseration on build times. I feel ya. Scott McDonald wants to know, when will there be more TST swag for purchase? We are just not good at merch. I mean, just neither Zach nor I are we don't think in T-shirts. And our audience isn't like Tom Segura's audience that they just meme out every fucking thing. And so someone might want to buy a shirt. I just don't think in T-shirts. And when I do, the people at Blip Shift remind me very kindly that they don't make negative shirts.
Here's what I'd say to people listening. If there's been something we've said or a joke that you've liked, post it in the comments of this video on the Smoking Tire Podcast YouTube channel. And if we get, if a bunch of people say the same thing, we'll go, all right, that's what you guys like and remember. But we don't know if there are memes out there about the show. Memes and inside jokes. Like, we've tried to sell shirts that are based on like jokes that were made on the show. Like, nobody gets it. So if we're going to sell stuff, it literally has to be, like, that's why some of our shirts from Blip Shift literally have nothing to do with the show, because people who watch the show
I think they really just want to buy something that says the smoking tire on it, like basically.
But we used to sell that shirt and it didn't sell that well.
Yeah, I mean, because after a certain point, people are just tired of seeing it. But like we have these other random shirts that are just like adopted from Blip Shift Designs, and they're not like personal, but like I'm not sure what like personal thing. You know, it seems like when people's houses burn down or someone dies, we can sell a lot of shirts for charity. But like,
which is good. Our audience is charitable.
I don't know. I personally don't think in T-shirts, which is a real downside. I imagine Ken doesn't either, which is why Brian Scotto is in such a good asset because he thinks in T-shirts.
Well, I mean, they also have a brand based in hooliganry and driving and throwing tires around, all that stuff, and it makes sense.
Yeah,
but we don't have that.
Yeah, so it's I don't have a lot of merch to sell.
Talk shit, drive fast. That would be our equivalent of kill all tires. I don't know. If everybody likes that, mention in the comments, hit the like button, and then we'll maybe make that.
Yeah, definitely. But and Chappie wanted to make a donation to Zach so he can buy a bottle of bourbon and forget about hydrogen cars.
No,
that video's up. The Hyundai Nexo road trip that went horribly wrong.
Someone hit me up on Twitter. They said that Hyundai announced $20,000 off the sticker of that, and then 0% financing. And then a guy DM'd me on Instagram, and he's like, "Hey, I was looking at the Mirai a few years ago," and I said, "Why?" And he's like, "Because I did the math, and between the government incentives, the Toyota's incentives, and the $15,000 fuel card they were going to give me, it was like a $7,000 car." So he's like, I was going to get to drive an LS platform for basically $7,000. But he looked at how problematic the infrastructure was, and he's like, never mind.
Even for $7,000.
Even for that. But that's, if you see them, it's like maybe someone did the math, and they're like, look, I'm driving a nice car that's costing
There's a guy
so little.
In my neighborhood. Were you with me? We drove by it? Oh, no, Robert was with me. Has 3 Mirais parked in front of their house.
Well, he fills all of them. Then he drives one around, can't get filled up, goes home, drives the other one. Did I steal your joke?
I wasn't going to say the joke, but that was my first thought, was that if you're going to have one, it's like, to have one, you need to have 3.
Jesus. Such a bad road trip.
Yeah, that's a disaster. That video is really fucking epic. Thanks for listening, folks. Sorry we didn't talk GT3 Touring today, but the embargo isn't up until a couple days, and so you're going to have to wait one more show to talk about GT3 Touring. But I hope you enjoy whatever it is you're off to now, wherever you're driving to as you're listening to this show. And Zach and I are going to enjoy the rest of our Saturday and go to Nino's fashion show. Go follow that on Instagram, D Florencio Fashion. Is it DE or DI? Down right there. It's on the menu. DEFLOR D Florencio Fashion. Why am I not following it? Give him a follow from our account. And they're good. Congratulations to those guys. And buy some of their shit. If you dress like Machine Gun Kelly, this could help you dress more like Machine Gun Kelly. That's a T-shirt.
Dress like Machine Gun Kelly.
Dress like Machine Gun Kelly. Those are dope. He makes his own patterns now. Yeah, that's cool. All right. Goodbye. Have a great day.